And I just know that Terrell has such great information and such a good heart. She and I met, I don't know, it's probably been 6 or 7 years now. And I was speaking at this law firm and she was there as a presenter. And we talked after, and of course I was like, Terrell, what a, interesting name. And then we started talking about her father named her after Tammy Terrell. And I went to her office a few days later, and she just has this strategy around one bucket, building wealth one bucket, and that women need to have their buckets. They need to have their buckets. And she went on and on about these buckets. I said, you need to write a book. You need to write this bucket book. You need to put this in a book. And she said, I'm going to do a book when I'm 50. That's something that I have in my, my goals down the line or whatever. And so she said that I, inspired her to do the book sooner than later. I had the great pleasure of penning the forward for the book, and the book is a great read. She just came out with a second book, all about unicorn and credit and the power of the 800 credit score. So I wanted her to just share all of that. And I know she's such a friend of mine and a friend of Inner Circle and a member of Inner Circle. And so just having her come and share with us, I could not think of a better person to have this information and present. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Terrell. I'll figure out how to make you the presenter, and I look forward to what you have to share, and I'll be back.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sonia. That was such a beautiful, beautiful introduction. She she has a great memory. She has so many details of our first encounter, and that's great. I'm happy you remembered all that. Yeah, so Sonia did inspire me to write the book. So I have some great information that I want to share with you today. I have a slide presentation. Let me see if Princella, my host, can I pull up my slides? Okay, I'm right now it's disabled. So let me add me as a host. And then that way I can pull up my slides. But I am looking forward to sharing some great information with you all today. This is a great crowd. And it looks like a lot of people on this seminar. In the seminar, they're looking to build wealth, to create some generational wealth. Let me see if I'm still not a host yet. Let me see, host disabled. Okay. That way I can share my slides.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so everyone, I heard generational wealth a couple of times during the introduction. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that too. And I heard a lot of people into real estate. So that's great. And we're going to cover some of the different ways that you can build wealth. Okay, it looks like I am a host now. So let me pull up my slides. All righty here. Let me go to play. Let me see if that'll let me play here. Oh, let me see, why does that? Sometimes I think it freezes. I'm gonna hit escape. Is this not gonna let me play my slides? Okay, let me see here. I'm gonna stop sharing and I'll share again. Hold on.
And make you do it the old-fashioned way.
I'm gonna go again. Let me try it again. There we go. So can everyone see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, perfect. All right, well, let me see if I can advance. All right, so it's working. We're on like popcorn. So anyway, I wanted to say I am so happy to be here, and I love Sonia's topic, what women want. And a lot of you all brought up the whole building wealth and generational wealth. So I'm going to tap into that. But what do we really want? What do women really want? We want financial freedom. We all want to be financially free to do what we want to do, but we all define financial freedom differently. And what you have to do is you have to really dig deep in yourself and ask yourself, what does financial freedom look like to you? When I think about financial freedom, and I really consider myself financially free, I don't worry about my future. I feel like I've done some great things in my 20s that I don't have to worry about retirement. And I think a lot of us, when we think about financial freedom, we think about our future and how we can prepare ourselves in the future so that we don't have to worry about that. Creating financial freedom takes some boldness, and it lies in you being bold, taking some bold moves. So ask yourself, what does that look like? What does financial freedom look like to me? Does it mean that I'm debt free? Does it mean that you're able to pay your bills on time? Because it means something different. Does it mean that you have disposable income to invest in some additional real estate properties or invest in the stock market or take that vacation whenever you want? So you have to really ask yourself, and Sonia gave you all an assignment, but write down, what does that look like to me? I think we have to write it out, make it plain to ourselves, and ask yourself, what does that look like for me? So here's the thing. We just had a new administration that came in, and you hear people talking about getting my 40 acres and a mule. Well, you know what? We can't wait on the government to give us our share of the piece of pie. We have to be prepared to handle our wealth, and we have to be bold in creating that for ourselves. Well, I am very passionate about working with women. And Sonia brought up that she and I met. I worked in a financial planning firm. She didn't tell you, so I am I guess I'm a serial entrepreneur. I am a financial advisor. I'm a fiduciary. I have my own financial planning firm, and I'm probably one of the few African American women in Atlanta that has her own firm. I'm now a two-time author, and thanks to Sonia, I became an author before I intended to. She was my inspiration, so she pushed that first book out of me. And when I worked in this firm, before I went out on my own, I had decided that I would be an advocate for women, because most of the time people that came to me were women raising their hands. But here's my why and my purpose of why I do what I do. There's a huge wealth gap out there, particularly for African American women. This was a study that was done by the Samuel DuBose Cook Center on Social Inequality. And in this study, they looked at, compared African American women to Caucasian women and that wealth gap. And what they found was that when we look at our young 20 to 39-year-old single African American women with no degree, there's no net worth. And this whole thing about financial freedom, you got to have a net worth to have financial freedom. You got to have a net worth to be able to do some things that you want. This study further looked at married Black women with a degree, ages 20 to 39, and they had a negative net worth. Now, a lot of that has a lot to do with student loans. When you have student loan debt, oh gosh, it can be a huge deterrent in you building your wealth. So a lot of that negative net worth is part of student loan debt. And I want to, again, do a touch bases. You all hear me okay? And seeing this on slides okay? If I can get one person to say yes.
Yes, we are.
Perfect. All right. And then, so when we start looking at married Black women with degrees, it's not until we're over the age of 60, which I think is far too late, that we really start seeing a net worth. And when we compare that to our Caucasian sisters, their net worth is a lot higher. So what do we do to close this gap? What do we do to close this huge gap that we have out there? I just shared on my personal Facebook page an article that just came out. It was an article, it was an interview on CNBC. And one of the ladies that was interviewed, her company is now helping to pay off her student loan debt. But I think this wealth gap goes beyond just student loan debt. A lot of it has to do with us having seminars like this in financial literacy. So That's one of the reasons why, and Sonia talked about this very first book and what I was doing when I worked for this firm before I ventured out on my own. And one of the things that she said to me was, Terrell, why is it that only your clients have access to these buckets? Because this was something that I was teaching all of my clients about, the importance of creating these money buckets, these 4 money buckets throughout your lifetime so that it will last your lifetime. And the reason why this is so important is because women are born with a blessing and a curse. The blessing is we will probably outlive our male counterparts. And the curse is we will probably outlive our male counterparts. Women will probably be alone. And I grew up in a situation like that. My mother was a widow at the age of 34. My dad died at 36 years old. So she ended up being alone. And she really encouraged me and my sister and I, to make sure that we put our ducks in a row, that we save money, because you never know, you may end up being alone, just as she was. And she's since remarried, but she was a widow for a very long time. So that's that blessing and a curse. But before we can get there, we really have to face the woman in the mirror. Look at yourself, look at your financial baggage, and start tackling your finances. Look at where you are and face it. That's the very beginning of you building wealth. Facing your financial baggage, facing where you are, and creating these money buckets throughout your lifetime so that they will last you a lifetime. And I feel like in my situation, I started very young working on these money buckets, not knowing what I was doing at the time. But I've always been a good steward with my money, and I've always been an investor that, before the age of 50 years old, I was completely debt free, no mortgage, no nothing. I was there before, and that was a goal. Before I'm 50, I want to be debt free and I want to have my buckets. But it took planning, and I started early. So now that we are in this, I say it's a new age, we're in a pandemic. Believe it or not, in 2020, I'm sure a lot of you, this happened to you. You saw your practices grow. In my situation, my practice grew, thank the Lord for that, but it grew because people were sitting still. And I think sometimes this stillness brings out the best in us. And what has happened is there are a lot of people that did some things during this pandemic that helped them out a lot. And something that I want you to do, because we're still in a pandemic and a lot of us are still working from home. So here are some financial action steps you could be doing for yourself during this pandemic. And I believe in having a budget. I think everything starts with a budget or spending plan, because that's part of you discovering where your financial baggage is, where your money is going, by starting with your budget or spending plan. And then also too, while we're sitting still, don't run up your credit cards out of boredom. I think we all want to reach some goals, and a lot of you want to start, buying more real estate or investing in the market. So don't run up your credit cards out of boredom. And then discover your weakness. We all have a spending weakness. I will admit, but it's okay, because I put it in my budget. But my spending weakness, Starbucks gets all of my money. And I've actually got my husband now hooked on Starbucks. So he treats us. So about 3 o'clock, we do a Starbucks break. But that's about where my money is going during this pandemic. So once you get that spending plan or reworking your budget, I want you to do what I call the SID approach to your disposable cash, if you have disposable cash. And if you don't have disposable cash, doing this spending plan will trigger something in you to make you realize, hey, I don't have disposable cash, so I need to figure out a way to get some extra disposable money. It may be that you get another job, or you pick up something else. But SID means save, invest, and get rid of your debt. Save, invest, and debt. So whenever I have disposable cash, I don't care if it's $100, I don't care if it's $50, I apply this SID approach. Can I put that money towards saving? And if do I have enough money in my savings? Do I have any debt? Or and I'll pay the debt off, or and I always put something towards my investment. So there is no right or wrong order, but I do believe that people are able to pay off debts and invest at the same time. And finally, work on your credit score, work on your credit. If you're going to be doing real estate, I know Sonia talks a lot about ways that you can, get invest in real estate. You don't necessarily do use your own money, but your credit is so important. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the slides. I think there's a new song out now, a young singer. I think his name is Vito. He talks about a woman, getting her body back, getting her degree, and working on her credit. And that's one of the things that's so important, is that we really work on our credit score, because people that are unicorns, and I call these people unicorns, people that have really good credit, they save a lot of money, and it's about saving money. So let's look at some of the best ways that you can create generational wealth. And we taught you, a lot of you brought up the word generational wealth. Now, wouldn't it have been nice if you had a grandparent or a parent, if maybe you all have parents that were deceased that left you money? So when we think about generational wealth, these are 4 ways that you can create generational wealth for your family. Life insurance is an easy, cheap way to create generational wealth. There are some communities, every time a baby is born, a life insurance policy is written on that baby. And it's inexpensive when a child is a baby. That baby grows up with this life insurance policy on them. If they pass, that money is passed down to their children. So it creates generational wealth through this life insurance policy. Of course, real estate, and a lot of you are real estate investors or are new to the real estate investing arena. Real estate is a great way to create generational wealth. It creates additional cash flow. And me, I'm a stock girl. I have made millions of dollars in the stock market. I love stocks. It's easy. I can get in and out with a tap of a button on my computer. So I love stock. And when we think about how most of the wealth is made in this country, it's made 2 ways: real estate and the stock market. And I tell people, you know what, there's this huge disconnect between Wall Street and Main Street. And I really feel like everyone needs to start walking across the street. We need to start connecting with Wall Street, because there's a big disconnect. In 2020, while Main Street were losing their jobs, Wall Street made money. People made money in 2020 with the stock market. And of course, knowledge. Things that, reading books, furthering your knowledge is a great way to create generational wealth, because you can pass that knowledge down to your offspring. Believe it or not, and this is going to be the case, my son and my daughter will know about investing because they have a mother who is an advisor, and I believe in investing, and they're going to know that. And I can pass that down to my children. So let's look a little bit about, talk a little about the stock market, because we're going to have some people that are going to be discussing real estate. Back in March, there was blood on Wall Street. And I think when there's blood on Wall Street, that scares people off. And for people who are not stock investors, having a situation like we had in March was a deterrent for them to ever even think about getting in the stock market. But when there's blood on the street, when there's blood on Wall Street, that's a buying opportunity. And here's why I have always been a stock girl, why I've always invested in the stock market. The stock market has never gone to zero. The stock market has never gone to zero. And when we look at the market from 1949 up to 2019, the average bull market, and what I mean by the average bull market, it means that the stock market was up, had an average rate of return of 279%. And that's over 72%, 72 a month period. And then the average bear market, when the market was down, it was only a negative 33%. But people may panic over the 33%, and that's why people don't make money a lot of times in the markets, because that 33% scares them, and they get more scared about the 33% than the 279% and the longer time period. But the market has never gone to zero. And I have watched, I've gone through a couple of markets. I was around in 2008 when the market tumbled. And of course, in 2020, when the market went down again. And I never touched my money. I saw a small account go to millions, and with not even me adding a penny to it. Because when you put money in the market, it's like making money in your sleep. Just like real estate, you make money in your sleep when you have these residuals coming in from your real estate. So that's why I have always been a stock girl. So people often ask me, Terrell, if I get in the market, where is the best place for me to put my money? What's the best performing market sectors? Well, think about it. We're having a conference right now, this meeting right now, with over 30 women using Zoom technology. So in 2020, information technology has been huge, and that's where a lot of people have made money in information technology. We just had four, is it Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, I think AstraZeneca, all these companies are coming out with a vaccine for this pandemic. So healthcare has been another great sector to put your money. And of course, consumer staples. We've, the stores have run out of Clorox and Lysol spray. So your information technology, healthcare, consumer staples have all been great areas to put your money in the market. So again, we go back to, putting money in the real estate, putting money in stock market, and then knowledge. It's so important that you teach yourself, that you learn or you ask questions. So some of my favorite places where I learn about investing, I love Market Watch, CNBC. I absolutely love CNBC. Sector blogs. Now, a lot of you have probably heard about the situation that happened with some of these stocks that were at the bottom and then went up, where people were shorting the market. That was through a sector blog, and people made millions of dollars recently with this whole shorting the market on some of these GameStop stocks and what have you, but through sector blogs and of course investing apps. So how do you decide which stock or sector to invest in? Think about what you like or what has made your life easy. Zoom has made our life easy, and I'm not saying go out and invest in Zoom. I don't own Zoom stock, but that's an example of something to think about and what you should be investing in if you're interested in doing the stock market. Buy what makes sense to you. I'm familiar with the pharmaceutical industry. I worked in the pharmaceutical industry for 16 years. So pharmaceuticals is an industry, an area where I like to invest in. Think about how this pandemic has changed our lives and how the future is going to look for us. So those are all some of the things you consider if this is an avenue that you want to go down. Things that have made your life a lot easier. And last two, and kind of getting towards the end, financial literacy.
It's not working.
I'm not sure if somebody want to put their phone on. Are you all having issues with my slides? Are we okay?
Yeah, we can see you.
You're fine.
All right. So financial literacy is also one of the keys to closing this wealth gap. And poor credit that I mentioned earlier is one of the contributing factors to the wealth gap. Think about it. If you have poor credit, your poor credit, if you go out and buy a house, you're going to spend more on your house than I'm going to spend on my house because I'm a member of this 800 club. If you go and buy a car, I'll be able to walk into that dealership and negotiate 0 to 1% on my car loan, but someone who has poor credit can't. So when you have great credit, and particularly for these people that are in this 800 club, people that in the 800 club, they gain access to lower interest rates. Using somebody else's money at a lower interest rate is so much better than you having to use your own money. They have access to premium credit cards, And you actually also have greater spending power when you have excellent credit. And that's all part of this whole knowledge base of why it's important for you to educate yourself. So last but not least, ask yourself this question. What are you doing to close the wealth gap for yourself and for the next generation? What are you doing for yourself to close this wealth gap for your family, for you, and for the next generation? Thank you so much, ladies, and I will take any questions that you have. Here's a way that you can reach me. I would love you. I have, and let me just kind of clear this up. I have two companies. One Bucket Nation is my company that I use that for speaking. You all distribute all of my books through One Bucket Nation, and OBN Wealth Advisors is my financial planning firm. So here's a way that you can reach me. And I am open to questions. I'm not sure, Sonia, if you're taking questions now or if you're going to wait until after the speakers.
If you have a question, please put it in the chat. So Terrell, I have a couple questions that I wanted to thank you for your great presentation. It was absolutely informative and amazing, as usual. I took a couple notes because I think that the idea of life insurance is so vitally important. And when you talk about like how people insure their kids, and get insurance as a wealth building, but also as a protection, talk a little bit about how we all could really tap into that, because I think that that is something that we sometimes really sleep on. And the idea that me being in insurance for 5 years was daunting. Nobody wanted to talk about life insurance. Nobody wanted to talk about the idea of the spot.
Oh, people hate talking about life insurance. Let me just tell you, so there are different types, and I have my life insurance license. So as a planner, I have my securities license, I manage money, but I think where you're doing planning, life insurance is part of it. That's so important when you're planning to think about life and insurance including. So life insurance can have living benefits and death benefits, depending on the type that you have. And I'll use me as a prime example. So when I worked for this financial planning firm in Buckhead, when I left that firm, I left all of my clients, everything behind, and I had to start all over again. But I had this whole life insurance policy that had cash value in it. And when you're in our industry, it takes a while for, my clients did come with me, but that was eventually they came with me. You have to get your firm and everything set up. So I was able to use the cash value, a living benefit, out of my life insurance to tie me over until my clients followed me over to my new firm. So that's the living benefits of life insurance. And also too, people don't realize this, if you're a business owner, and I've worked with business owners to set this up, you can actually use your life insurance as an asset, a borrowing tool. So if you have a life insurance policy, you have a business, you can actually use that life insurance policy and use it as collateral for getting business loans. I had a corporation who they insured their key players, their key people in their firms, and they actually use that life insurance policy, making the the lender, the beneficiary on it to get a loan. So, and then another famous story is when Walt Disney was starting to set up Disney, he used his life insurance policy, the cash value, his life insurance policy to help him get started. So there are great living benefits. And of course, we know, or we're all familiar with the death benefits of life insurance. When you die, all of the people that depend on you, they benefit from, the life insurance that you leave behind. But people forget about the living benefits of it.
So I think there's some more questions that are coming about life insurance. Terrell, if you could answer those in the chat so that everybody can see it, that would be really great. So we're gonna try to stay on task because I'm usually notorious